Yep.
Like to. I'd like to call the Woodstock Cooperative School District meeting to order. The first item is to elect officers. Does anybody want to make a motion?
I nominate Jay as chair.
Second,
Second.
all in favor?
Aye.
Any abstentions? Any nays?
You're welcome.
Okay. The meeting is all yours.
Next up would be the nomination of the vice chair. Nominate Tammy. A second. Any further discussion on that? All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstentions, and that motion carries.
Thank you.
Um,
I will nominate Jasmine as secretary.
she did say that she was going to do that, so. Unless somebody else really wants that.
Assuming nobody else wants it. Kevin, I heard you wanted to run for it, but.
Well, I think they'll fight for it.
So we had a nomination and a second. All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstentions, and that motion carries.
Great.
So the rest of the, like committee stuff will
It's
handle
here.
during the business section. Next up is the approval of the minutes.
I'll make a motion to approve the school board meeting minutes of whatever the date is. March 12th.
I have one change. On school board present, school board present, I think it should be, second one should say school board absent.
Ah, good catch.
What?
It says school board present and school board present.
Oh.
Yeah, was I not there?
Not
You were
there.
not, I had to do that meeting.
Oh, no, I think. That's right.
Good thing you know.
So we can, with that modification, any further discussion? All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
I
Opposed, I will abstain. Next up is the approval of the minutes of the district meeting.
make a motion to approve the district meeting minutes.
Joe, any further discussion on that? All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstentions, and that motion carries.
Nice job on that, Sharon.
Thank you, Sharon.
Yeah.
Correspondence, looks like we had some correspondence, which
Yes, we have.
does this, well,
Should this be discussed in non-public?
yeah,
Can bring it
Mentions
to non-public.
students.
Yeah.
I was gonna say, I think, yeah.
Yeah.
That's-
Okay.
And there's a third one too that came in verbally, a request. So
Okay,
we'll
I had
talk
a-
about
I did get some, an email from, pull it up. It was from an organization, and I can, their name's escaping me right now. It's the New Hampshire School Funding Fairness Project, gathering signatures, asking that, our board put our signature on a petition regarding, school funding changes. So I guess if anybody, I think you can put your signature on individually. If you'd like, and that appears that that's what other districts are doing is, not every. The districts don't appear to be putting their signatures on as a district, but as like a member of the school board. So I can forward that to the rest of the board if you'd like to see it, but essentially it's about the, sort of proposed changes to the school funding scheme. So I'll forward that along.
Forward it to Sharon, let her forward it to the board.
Okay. Better fine. And that's all for
The
correspondence.
other piece was just the New Hampshire Educational Services newsletter. So that's the only other communication.
Thanks. That was some useful reports.
I have a few things. The flooring is out to bid to award and we hope to award and finalize the contract by the next board meeting on April 23rd. So the project that was passed at annual meeting. We're preparing for the new year with finalizing contracts, including the new lunch prices for the upcoming year, which we'll bring to you at the next board meeting. Open enrollment for staff benefits is starting soon when staff can make annual changes to their benefits effective in the new fiscal year. So a lot of things happening right now. A request from Matt Manning was received to purchase the baseball pitching machine so it can be used for this baseball season. And it was, as you call it, we removed it from the budget, the operating budget, and said we would, with the intention to fund it from the equipment trust fund. So we need to schedule a public hearing for the next meeting in April to approve the trust fund expenditure. So there's like a 1 week posting requirement for that. And right now, the lowest price quoted is currently at $3,159.98. And he had originally thought it would be about $3,500.
So we could plan on 35.
Yeah. So we'll,
Is that early?
Huh?
Is that early enough? If we're,
well, I mean, yeah, they'll still be able to get it and use it for this season.
I don't know that we have any other options. So it's like-
Yeah, I mean, because we have to go through the hearing process.
How many days is the posting?
7 weeks prior, 7 weeks, 7 days prior to the public hearing. So we'll have it posted.
Could we have a quick meeting for the public hearing next week and then they could get it now?
Well, we're gonna send it to the newspaper Friday, so it gets posted next week, so that's what.
Gotcha, so it wouldn't matter anyway,
Yeah.
okay, okay.
The 23-24 final audit letter is in your packet, and copies of the full audit are here. You want to take a look at, we also have them in the SAU office. I also have an electronic version if you want me to send you an email copy.
Take a copy home?
Huh?
Can I take a copy home
Sure.
and then I'll return it?
Yeah,
Okay.
I also included the management discussion and analysis report, which is part of the full audit. It's included in your packet. It's just something that we're required to write and put in there each year. And some of the requirements of that has changed. It's part of the governmental accounting standards, one of the requirements of the audit. And no significant findings, a couple of policies we need to review and update that I'll give to Sharon to bring to the policy committee.
Good.
And I don't know if you had any questions after reading their letter, but anything you should put in any of the things that they found. And the MS-22, which is a report of appropriations voted at the annual meeting that goes to the Department of Revenue, along with the minutes and all that from the meeting is over here. And I think it only needs maybe 1 or 2 more signatures. And you'll get that in. And that's all I have.
Yeah, but the money that we appropriated was the bid for the flooring. That wasn't the bid, the actual bid?
No, I mean, that was
The estimate.
an estimate that we got from one of the vendors.
Oh.
So that wasn't the final,
So what
no.
happens if it comes in a bunch over that?
Well, right now, we have a couple of people that we've heard from that are probably. Well, if it comes, then we'll have to look at it and maybe cut something out, but,
Okay,
you know,
I was just.
no, that's what we really can't put anyone under contract.
Until you
Until
have
we
it
get the vote.
appropriated, yeah,
That's normally how we do it. We got an estimate,
That's how we.
right.
Okay.
and they might submit that.
Yeah, I think it's tough for us to get kind of a final.
Yeah.
Well, no,
Final number, and then we have to wait and see if.
Legally, it has to be an estimate,
I
not a
agree.
bid. Legally, you have to appropriate the estimated amount, not a bid,
I understand.
yeah. But I see what you're saying, I see what you're saying.
But they can't, and you just said this is what it's gonna cost, so I just assumed.
Gotcha.
When I went up there, I said, this is what it's gonna cost, so I just, yeah, that's stupid about that. I'll get over being stupid, I do every day.
No comment.
I mean, to the extent that we can, we do the best,
Yeah.
we do the best we can in terms of like the estimating the cost, right? That's sort of a tactical way.
Yeah, that was just how I was thinking. Yeah.
That's it.
Thank you.
Agree.
Anything else, Deb? All right. Dr. Stay?
So I just wanted to thank you all for your hard work on the budget process and the staff and the community. As we collaborate together, on right fit the district. And also just a thank you to the town of Lincoln for the bands. I know that may seem like a small gesture, but it has really opened the doors for us in many significant ways of being able to take kids to visit colleges. Here we'll speak and during his about a quick field trip that came about on a Tuesday, and we were able to bring kids on a Thursday to that. So it really has been a great partnership. So, you know, so I can, let them all
Yeah.
also send them.
No, that's fantastic.
It's been, very helpful to us. Around professional development, we finished up our 8 days with Dr. Tolman and Maureen Wilson all around literacy this month. And it's been exciting to see the teachers really dive deep into that and screen all the kids and really have an understanding where each student at the elementary school is with their gaps with literacy, and what the plan is moving forward for the rest of the year, and being able to share that data with their teacher here, and being trained on some tools that really define what our instruction should look like for certain kids. So that's been exciting. The CPG for the strategic plan will meet virtually on April 15th. There will be a subcommittee of that CPG to start looking at our 21st learning expectations. Through NEAS accreditations, we have to take those and turn them into a portrait of a learner. It's something the CPG had already thought they wanted to look at those expectations anyways, so a small group will come together. Our computer and technology education position, I was meeting with the STEM education, or the STEM, group with the teachers, and really looking at how that position can be reimagined. The ICT standards have changed over the course of the last few years, and you don't have to hold these isolated classes that aren't connected or being able to generalize. So we're going to take that position, just so you're aware, still have them teach some of those ICT classes, but in a more integrated way in STEM. We are also going to be able to take, with that position, be able to work with the community members or bring back some of our wood shop or small engines. So that way that person who's doing that will have the supervision. The thought is when kids are in middle school, each kid will go through a rotation to learn how to use like the laser cutter, 3D printer. They'll know how to use some of the wood shop tools, some of the small engine things. And then once they are in the later middle school years, they'll actually do prototyping. So they've already been exposed to all that, so then they can put it into action. So just wanted to let you know that those conversations have worked really well, to the point that that committee of teachers created a job description and things like that, of what they want that position.
So this
to look
isn't a
like.
new position, it's just redefining.
Yeah,
an existing position.
it's the existing position, but really making it, instead of being in a classroom, sitting in front of a computer, and it's really isolated, making it more hands-on.
Seems like a really good opportunity for some project-based learning.
Yes,
Yes,
yeah. So we'll be
absolutely.
bringing the PBL work forward with this position and stuff. We're gonna really concentrate K-5 this coming year on the position, and making sure that there's X amount of PBL STEM initiatives in each of the grades. And the position will also be required to use our outdoor classroom. And working with the teachers with that. For middle school, it's integrating those technical position tools. It's how I'm
Sure.
really familiar with this stuff.
Sure, yeah.
The saws and stuff into the curriculum. We already have a parent who's come forward who wants to take that position for 2 hours, like our old person, the other person in the position
Fantastic.
had. They'll partner with this teacher. And then that position will also start coordinating what would a bigger STEM lab look like in our district. So we will be moving Bart's room, because we have put the flooring in there, across the hall. So that way the tech ed room that has all the equipment would be next to the computers, so that there you can flow in between, eventually possibly put a door in, if that makes sense, between the two rooms. But moving. So this team, the STEM committee, has been very active this year. We meet every 2 weeks for about 30 to 45 minutes after school, just trying to figure out what we want for this.
Is this the position that was responsible for the TV production studio? And
Yeah, we'll still have, we have the opportunity to, somebody who's into video production now, one of our pairs who wants to do it next year again. He has a bachelor's degree and working on getting we'll work with him to get certified. That's the case. So it'll be someone separate doing that, and they'll also help with yearbook too, that position. So that way we're able to really focus on project-based learning with this position. filling that out like we did this year.
Because we spent a significant amount of money in recent years, and I think we've allocated some additional money
Yeah.
this year towards equipment. I would just hate to see that. So,
No,
and I actually think that the community enjoys the stuff that they produce. And it's-
and we'll be able to, and if we move, when we move the rooms, we'll be able to put that green screen that they wanted for that, in that room. It'll be a better space, it's larger, so you will be able to have better productions. They'll assist with the cake program, but the current person who, is doing it this year will continue next year. They want to do.
Mary, if I could,
Yes,
Joe just asked about that.
I'm sorry.
The room that I'm in now was the original for the video.
Is that the green room?
Yes,
Mhm.
and there's a whole wall there that has a green screen already. And they've been using it currently in the existing room. And from what I understand, it's always switching, it's always taking the room that Dan Adams has been in now. And then all that production to that, in addition to having the
The glow
3D
boards,
printer,
3D
those
printers and
all
things
that.
like that.
We're not taking the walls down.
No, we're not doing any of that. I mean, we're just gonna move it because it's a better space.
Oh,
for
that's
it. It makes more sense for it to be.
There was talk about putting a door between the two.
Maybe eventually at some time. We're not doing that anytime soon. We want to see how the flow works before we, and
Yeah, it's
is
easy
this
enough just to
really
walk-
going to
walk.
catch on the way we anticipate before we start ripping down walls? That's-
Yeah, we have to redo the air, that's why I asked, because that's specific to that room.
Well, no, these things ventilate. They have like a mobile ventilation system.
The green room?
I think she's talking about the.
Oh, the equipment.
Oh, yeah, I'm talking about the green room itself.
Yeah,
So if we were to open that up, you just have to,
I don't think we'd open the wall up.
Okay.
Yeah, we would not do that. Yeah, maybe a door, but not the whole wall. That's why we want them in two separate places, because there's certain things that can't get that dust and grease and stuff on it. Right, so I do know that. That's dust. Just so you know that we had to submit our NEAS growth plans by April 1st, and they were submitted on March 26th. Through this process, there was the realization, which we knew anyways, that there's gonna have to be a lot of work on curriculum development, instructional practices. We've already started that work this year with anticipation that that was going to happen, and it was needed, so, so you're right. Communication. I don't know if anybody got to go up to see, Hopeville, up in Gorham, but our school district was asked to present on it and be part of the panel on all the work we're doing on literacy. And how we're being very strategic and methodical, working through that and identifying kids, gaps in reading and how we're addressing it. We are hopeful that we can have this movie production come to our town. And then it would be part of the teacher's opening day with an evening for parents to understand reading and literacy. There's some dates for you to, student-led conferences, the teacher, that's on a teacher in service day is not that, we cross that out. Spring break, is coming up, and then the lumberjack launch, which is really exciting, gotta be new this year. I attached the email from, Matt Manning. Peter, Matt and I sat and said, we need to, let our parents know how exciting high school and all the things that can be offered, whether it's going to the CTE center, ELOs, taking college early, AP classes at MLU. So we have invited families in, to have that discussion about what high school looks like. And, we've gotten a huge turnout for people interested in supporting. The community college will be there giving a presentation. So this was the first email that went out, an actual invite went out to parents, today. If you guys wanted to come and just hear what high school is all about and some of the things you may not hear. That's that.
Was this the actual letter? Matt?
That's not the letter. That was the letter that went out to staff to talk about
Oh,
it.
good, because he
Um,
talks about offerings for stunts and families.
now this was just
Sounds like you're gonna jump the green.
We haven't talked about that yet. We'll get back to you on that.
a letter that was sent out to staff to plan, see if they would be interested in participating. Yes, this is from that.
I thought it was awesome. We are talking about middle school kids, so you never know. This is a great
It's
idea.
gonna be fun.
Yeah, no, that is gonna be
Yeah,
great.
it is.
Definitely more interested in stunts than they are AP.
Yeah.
Just kidding. Agreed.
Did you say teacher service should not be on there?
Yeah, we have for April 11th.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's this week. The teachers get out early. It's student-led conferences that day, and then teachers leave early. I don't, yeah, they do that. The kids
Yes.
aren't here that day.
Just making sure I have my schedule correct.
Yes, yep.
Okay.
That was my
I was feeling good
mistake,
for a minute.
filling in some blanks.
That all here?
Yeah, I have one more, since this teacher rep isn't here, but Dave, Webster has been starting to send out a high school science newsletter. And it's pretty interesting, so he'd asked if I would share it with you guys since there's been, so I'm gonna pass that along. It's fun to hear what's happening in high school. Yeah. Now I'm done.
Mr. Sally.
Thank you. As Mary was talking about, great to partner with the town and use those vans. That's the first thing. Miss Steves, our middle school science teacher, was the gentleman who came and presented everything about our solar eclipse last year. He reached out to her he has this little mini observation and wanted to know if anybody was interested to come up and look at stars at night and talk about some things. So, as Dr. Steady referred to, was really, it took shape so quickly. And we were able to do that because we had the use of those vans. It was so easy to say, okay, 15 passenger, excellent. Miss Steves had the training, so it was really easy to put that together and say yes and go up there on March 18th in the evening. I think everyone met here about 6 o'clock, piled in. You had some parents drive and then up, and they had a wonderful night.
That's great.
And yeah, it was really good. It was nice that we have that relationship with that gentleman and keep reaching out so that stuff can continue to happen. So it was really, really excellent. So thanks again to the town for that. And then on March 19th, through the Tufts University School of Engineering and Education Design, we had our novel engineering evening. It was a Wednesday, and it was just to really push our STEM, right? Start introducing STEM and that project-based learning. And we had a very good turnout. It was enough that it wasn't like overcrowded because the space was limited. And, it was funny because we had the parents versus the students and who could come up with the best, answer or project to solve that problem. So it was really good.
I heard
And-
a lot of positive feedback on it.
Yes.
Yeah, I couldn't make it, but I heard a lot of parents really enjoyed
It
it.
seemed like, everyone's engaging, having a good time. And, once again, like we said, starting that STEM K-5, the young children were just excited, just to be part of it and to build something, to try to solve that problem that was presented to them. On May 1st, we had author Ty Gagne visit with our 6th and 12th graders, talked about his experiences in the mountains, life lessons, skills, determination, risk, decision-making, and a little bit about suicide prevention. And so that was a great presentation by him. Chrissy Duras, set that up for us, which was great. And just a couple of housekeeping. Quarter 3 has been closed. Report cards will go out on the 10th, which is tomorrow. And just so everyone has heads up that that's where we are. The Penny Social,
What a blast we had.
Tammy,
What a great event. I'm so glad that it's back, and the sophomore class intends to do it for at least 2 more years while we're here. So, and then hopefully another class picks it up like they did. was just seniors for a long time. The seniors did it for quite a few years. But what a great event, so much fun. And we truly live in an amazing community. The amount of support that the class got through donations from area businesses and such is amazing. And they raised just right around $4,000 that night, so what a great, 4,000. Yeah, 4,000,
Remember how you saw Kenny exceed your expectations there?
That exceeded my expectations.
just a fantastic event and so much fun.
It was a lot of fun.
Although it seemed that one side of the gym was a lot luckier than the others.
I've got a lot more stuff in my garage. I want to convince them to be twice a year.
Each twice a year would be nice, yeah. No, it was a great event, a lot of fun. And the kids loved it too. The sophomores are excited to do it again next year.
Good.
So, yeah.
Thank you, Tammy. And then, as Mary mentioned too about our student-led conferences, so tomorrow we'll have a full day of school. And then starting at 3 o'clock until 6 in the evening, you know, parents will come in where students will present, you know, their learning to them. And then we'll do it again on Friday morning. There is no school for students on Friday. And parents and students will, that signed up will come in between the hours of 8 in the morning until noon time. And then, that is it for that day. And then teachers and everyone are dismissed to go home.
What's a dance, a week from Friday?
So it's tomorrow and Friday. It's the 10th and the 11th.
No,
of
the
April.
dance.
Oh, the dance?
Yeah, so
Yeah.
there's no school Friday, but they still have the dance.
They
right?
still have the middle school will have the semi-formal dance, that, yes, Friday at the community center. Yes, thank you.
I just want to make sure.
Yep, are you going?
Yeah,
Okay, good.
that's why.
Remember I
Yeah.
think last year you said you were gonna show up for me, and what happened?
I made that, but
Yeah, I don't think you got
I
there.
made the light one, whatever the light
Yeah.
one. I was at that one.
Oh, yeah, you made that one, right.
The glow in the dark.
Yes, that's
made
the
that
one,
one.
yes. The PTA is running a book fair, similar to the one we had in the fall, and the library is full of all the books and trinkets that all the kids love, and, that's going really well. And we just, you know, and I just talked about the semi-formal dance, that'll be held this Friday from 6:30 to 9:30. And Matt Manning will be taking kids to Bear Brook State Park for our New Hampshire Forest Career Day. So that'll run from 9 to 1:30, and we have a lot of interest in that, which is very nice. So they'll go over a lot of careers and a lot, you know, to what that looks like to be part of that, you know, state park system and forestry and things of that nature. And then just some appreciation. March 26th, we had our National Honor Society held its induction ceremonies. And our new inductees were Abby Harvey, McKenna Mack, Edna Dutilli, Wyatt Whedon, Aisha Ivester, and Kylie Claremont. So they're all our new inductees for this year. And our NHI, NHADA, scholar athletes. That was also to Dylan Blood, Mason Clark, Kate Claremont, Kylie Claremont, Bryn Drapo, Abby Harvey, Aisha Ivester, and McKenna Mack. And in order to qualify, you have to maintain a B+ average in your academics and participate in 2 varsity sports every year. So congratulations to them and
Those
to
are
our,
impressive numbers for such a small.
yeah,
high
it
school.
is, isn't it?
Yeah, it really is.
It is. So yeah, congratulations to both our National Honor Society inductees and to our New Hampshire Interscholastic Athletic Association and the Athletic Directors Association. And then Christy Duras, a surprise, right? She was nominated and was awarded that Virtual School Library of the Year Award. And then just underneath it talks a little bit about what that is, just for engaging in creative virtual school library program present. So an exemplary virtual school library will promote inquiry, inclusiveness, collaboration, curation, exploration, and engagement. So that was a nice honor for us and for Christie.
Absolutely.
Yeah, to be awarded that, so. Yeah. And that is all I have. Thank you.
Congratulations to Christy. That's fantastic.
Any other questions for Peter? Great, moving on to committee reports. I see we have some minutes from the policy committee. Was any other minutes in the packet, any other committee minutes, and we haven't really had any meetings since the district meeting, right?
Right.
The only thing I guess would be the policy committee. We have some stuff that's on for first reading and stuff that's on for second.
I have a question, Sharon. GBGBA. I know we had discussed it. To put it on for first reading, but I didn't see it on there. And I don't know what I'm missing. I went back through my notes, from that meeting.
It was in the packet. That's the.
I forgot to put it on.
It's not on the list.
It's not on the list, probably on the agenda, but it was in the packet.
Yeah, I just
Sure.
didn't see it on the agenda. It's. I haven't-
Because it-
Just missed it.
The change that we
Okay.
were looking for was
So-
essentially to add that, in the absence of a certified person, that
Right.
anybody.
Right.
And that was
Exactly.
changed in the copy that we got.
So should we add that to our list tonight to move to second reading? Yeah, okay,
Yes,
thank you.
and did everybody see that?
The use of automated external defibrillators. Does anybody need it? Good, and I wasn't losing my mind. Because I saw it in my notes, I'm like, wait a minute, I know we discussed it, but I didn't see it on here, okay.
That was one that we had that was on for first, and we sort of kicked it back.
We kicked it back to go
Yeah.
through the. And I think it's the one that you said that now the,
Yeah,
SBA is gonna use it as their template, correct?
right,
Yeah.
well, the board had asked that we reach back out to the Hampshire School Board Association. About Jay's question with,
Right.
usage of AEDs, and when I reached out to, the School Board Association, Will Phillips, he actually had already come up with that change.
Oh, good.
As he'd had questions, similar questions from other districts. And, the next time they release that policy, there's going to be those two options for that section in the policy.
So we can go ahead and approve this with the one that we wanted. Anyway,
Yeah,
without
he
waiting,
gave it
Okay.
to us, basically he gave it to us early because we asked.
great.
So I don't know if it makes sense to go for the ones for second reading first. Or,
Go ahead, did anybody have any questions or comments on those?
so it looked like, we're just changing some of the
The different
requirements.
was the wellness, yeah.
And then the wellness, sorry, I think it was the big change in the wellness.
These lots. It's one page, the next that are stapled to it.
Yeah.
And this was the only thing on the part-time substitute professional was just the age requirement.
Right. And in terms of the changes to the student wellness policy, is that school board association recommendations, or is this something that
More wellness policy than anything. I know, Jasmine said the wellness policy really worked hard on this, yeah.
What happened there is that our policy hadn't been updated since the last time the School Board Association had given that update, because our policy had been in really good shape, but we did want to start including some of the recommendations that from that policy that the School Board Association had given. So the Wellness Committee worked on it together, and a subcommittee was formed of myself, Debbie and Jasmine, to actually go through the nitty-gritty and put all the to work our policy and the School Board Association's policy, to have them work together, and that's what we can.
Well, great job, because it's
Yeah.
well written,
I
yeah.
was gonna say, it seemed pretty comprehensive, and I was just wondering if it was something, a custom thing, so it sounds like it was, which is great.
Well, I would make a motion to approve. It's just the three, the GCG, JLCF, and JLCFI. Well, I'm
So
moving
you
to
move-
second,
Second.
yeah,
Okay, any
Oh, I thought you
further?
said you would sell. Or-
make a motion to, yeah.
So any further discussion on that? All right, all those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, tensions, that motion carries. So the ones up for, there's a lot of weird stuff going on, well, there's a lot of stuff going on in these ones, and I tend to think that this is coming down from on high at us. Some of it, but I do question I do have some questions, and maybe we don't know the answers to that question. Maybe we need further legal guidance on it, but one of the, so in the first one, if we start with the non-discrimination, equal opportunity, sorry, the discrimination and harassment grievance procedure, so that would be ACA. One of the changes is kind of limiting the board's appeal discretion. So if there's a grievance, a level 1 grievance, then it goes to the level 2 grievance with the superintendent. And then the level 3 grievance comes to the board. Or the appeal comes to the board. And the level 3 appeal. This sort of like. Limits what the board is gonna look at, so in
Right.
terms of,
No, I'm agreeing with you, I didn't like it either.
and one of the things, conspicuously absent is. The factual findings, like the facts of the case, right, so. If you are contesting factual findings of the investigator or the factual findings of your appeal of the superintendent. You can't, beyond the superintendent's determination, it's a dead end in terms of like, if you would disagree with the factual findings. And I'm not sure if that's intentional or I guess I wonder why that's the case. Because I think traditionally, one of the roles of the board in some of these grievance procedures is a sort of like an alternative fact finding. This basically limits us to like very limited things, procedural irregularities, new evidence that was not previously submitted or known. And then whether there was like a bias or conflict of interest on the part of the investigator or the previous fact finders.
You don't have any of the facts, how would you know if there was?
Well, basically what that means is I think we would still know the facts as they were presented, as they were found by the superintendent. So if the superintendent reviewed the original determination, was found the same facts as the original determination, then what we would know the facts to be is whatever the superintendent found. However, there could be, a disagreement about what the actual underlying facts of the issue were. And we would not be able to review that. So in terms of like, if Dr. Steady found, in her appeal that one party did something, that party disputed that, they would have no ability to ask the board to revisit that, unless they could provide new or additional evidence to support, us reviewing. And I think, it's certain. I think there's probably value in having a group of people, in similar way that we use like a juries in the criminal system to listen to the facts and come up with a consensus, because, and I also think that there's the possibility of, sort of allegations that, well, the first 2 rounds of fact finding are school employees that are, they're not going to be fair to somebody, depending on who they are in the process. And that maybe there's some value in having an independent determination of the facts. I just think that limiting I think this seems like it's designed to make things more efficient and streamlined, and so there isn't sort of like a drawn out you know, arbitrative process here, but we have these so infrequently that, you know, that it gets to the board that like, you know, I do see that there's some value in that. That's just, so I think in terms of, it has a line 3 here, basically, that we can add, you know, disputed factual findings as part of our review process. You know, that I think is worth considering. I don't know. You know, there is in the court system, you have the lower courts do make the factual findings, and then the appeal court doesn't make their own determination on factual findings generally. So that's oftentimes because they're not in a position to conduct the type of inquiry that's necessary to make factual findings, but I don't know that we're limited in that way. And I think, you know, given that in that 3-step process, the board is the only part of that process that isn't an employee of the school reviewing complaints that might be against another employee of the school or against administration or you know, something of that nature, that I think it would increase, I think, the likelihood that people would view that the determination as a fair determination, not necessarily tainted by, you know, the fact that, you know, one or the other of the parties was an employee or a colleague of the folks that were making the determinations. So,
Well, I would agree to adding with number 3, the disputed factual findings.
so I guess my question would be, do we think that that's something that we should run by? I mean, this is not something that this isn't something that the policy committee came up with, right?
Correct.
So this is like some coming from the school board association.
Correct.
Can we maybe inquire like as to why they've taken that out of our hands and what sort of harm, maybe there's something that we're not considering, you know, in terms of adding that back in as far as like. It just seems
So
like,
it was a change back to the 2020 regs, and that's how the 2020 regs operated.
Yeah.
So I think it's just going back to that review process.
This was also a reverse.
Yeah, it's, you can introduce any new facts to it. Unless it was for these few things, not only those facts that were introduced originally, or, you know, there's some procedural, so it prevented people from saying, oh, time after, oh, I also have this information, and not giving the school district the opportunity to speak.
well, I mean, I don't think that seems like they can still do that because new evidence that was not reasonably available, right? So they would
Right,
have
for
to-
if it, that's one of the reasons they
Yeah.
could, because that evidence wasn't, people were
Yeah.
keeping evidence and things like that. It was my understanding when I spent a long time implementing the 2020 regs.
Yeah.
Left your district.
Yeah.
Thank goodness you don't spend that much time.
Not as- yes.
So-
I'm relieved about that.
So we could review, you know, maybe it makes sense then to think about it, like, we can review factual findings that are based on facts that had been previously presented.
Yes,
Not facts that you maybe knew about and waited until,
yes, that's why it's,
yeah.
Yeah.
But in this case, we're not allowed to review any disputed factual findings. Even if it's just based on facts that are like, that had already been presented to, like, if you make the determination that one particular party was in the wrong, right?
right.
And that's a factual determination that you've made on appeal, that we're not then allowed to like review that determination. Unless,
That decision, yeah.
right.
Yep.
you know, and say, well, you know, maybe we disagree, maybe we don't find credible whatever representation that, you know, this depends on, I guess, the particular facts of the grievance, but you know, I think we could craft that in a way that limits, you know,
Yes,
if you don't present it in the first instance, you can't present that fact here, but we can review the facts sort of anew,
I think that's why they put the three, like, so that way you could bring in, so you're saying appeal the factual findings of it too, right? Like, if this doesn't allow that,
right.
Yeah.
Right.
yeah.
And I do think it is good policy to say, if you want to rely on it and at any point, and you know about it, you reasonably should have known about it, then you have to present it in the first instance. If you don't
Yeah.
present it in the first instance, you
Right.
should have waived your right to make that
Yes,
argument,
yes,
argue based on those facts. So because that then prevents them from sort of not presenting it, and then trying to hold on to it for appeal. But I don't know, I guess it maybe would be worth reaching out to the school board
Yeah, we
association,
can
see if
look
they
at it.
pitfall.
Look at, reach out to Gordon too, and
Yeah.
just see, is to get another take on it too, but we'll leave in Hampshire School Board Association. Oh, yeah, that's a simple one, we can, that's not hard.
That's all I had on that one.
Yeah.
So ACA, do we not want to move that to second reading? We want to wait on that one?
I would advocate waiting on that, just so we know. That's,
Is that the only one you're gonna? do?
no. Um. ACAC, this is basically 120, we're just moving backwards in time,
Exactly.
and this is statutory?
Yeah.
Okay.
This was so frustrating reading this.
Yes.
Just saying.
Worse implementation.
ACF,
So
food and nutrition services. So one of the, couple of the things that I have an issue with. I know that this is like, we're taking information from the federal government on this stuff, but the New Hampshire statute still requires us to not discriminate based on gender identity and sexual orientation. I guess. Why can't we leave that in? Comply, so we're in compliance with the state statutes. Also, these sort of policies are generally a minimum standard. And if we are more protective than the minimum standard, then then why is that a problem?
It is a problem. I'm not, this is where I think I struggled with some of this too, because we have our federal statute that says that we're not allowed to do
We lose funding.
use gender identity and sexual orientation, but our state law requires us to consider that. So that was when we had put in, kind of some safe language around, we'll follow all state and federal policies, so if things did come up, then we'd consult with the attorney and move from there. So we could change it to some extent, and I think just leaving it based on, we could put in where it says sex, federal and state. If we don't, so that's what's in the news now, if you're listening on around Title VI, that there's been a mandate for school districts to say they will not discriminate against like the typical things, but also that we will not implement any which is diversity, equity, and inclusion. They've narrowly defined that to race and use the court ruling on with Harvard, in which they played favorites to specific race saying. So there was a hearing today in our state on appealing that mandate that's come out from the Federal Department of Ed and then the State Department of Ed saying that we need to file this by originally it was for tomorrow. They've now, the Department of Ed federally is saying it's April 24th, and we have to file on April 17th. I paused and not signed anything at this point until these people kind of work out what they're going to do. I did consult with our attorney to say, can we put in there, like, with a definition to us, kind of what diversity, equity, and inclusion means? Because if we're saying we're not gonna do DEI, how are we integrating kids with disabilities into the classroom? Because that's inclusive education and strong inclusion. Like, so it's just, they haven't, the federal government hasn't defined DEI. They also threw in a couple of words in, the FAQs that came out around, saying social emotional learning is DEI, right? Like, so it's, and we do a lot of random acts of kindness, which is really great, teaching kids how to be kind. And so if we don't sign that, then the State Department of Ed has to send it to the federal, then all of our federal funds will be in jeopardy, and we will not receive. So,
We get from the feds.
so public, without the food, could we run this place? Yes, without that federal funding, I think we could figure it out. I've already started to map that out some,
Yeah.
but not with the food. The food service, that's the area, but I already started backtracking the budget to say, well, what if we didn't take your money and we took a really strong stand, if that's what you guys wanted to do on this?
So that's a different, for me, that's a bit of a different issue, because I understand that what they're essentially targeting is like, we're not giving any particular group of people preferential treatment
Yeah,
to advance an objective related to the diversity, right?
right, there, but that's not what they're saying in their language, but this, if they file Title IX or they file Title VII against us, that would be in jeopardy of our federal funds too. So all of our federal money is
Yeah.
tied to all of
I guess my issue here, though, is like, they're just saying. They're saying, they're setting the minimum standard here for what, you know, that we can't discriminate on certain bases, right? Why is it a problem for us to say, and also, we're not going to allow people to discriminate on.
Because the
position
federal
basis?
law says you
Right.
can't use gender.
Right.
So we're in conflict with the federal.
In terms of,
What about Dr. Sadie's
I'm not sure
suggestion
that-
that we put
yeah.
in, instead of having it put in accordance with state law?
State and federal law.
State
Just
and
put
federal
that there, and then our state law says gender. I mean, if you.
I mean, I don't think there's any meaningful difference then in from us explicitly saying it or.
Well, they can say your
I
one of
agree
the
with
things
you as
we're
well.
styling, we're signing off is our policies are all in alignment with that. And if we put that there, it's no longer in
no longer
alignment with
in
those
alignment, right.
federal policies. But if we just say state and federal law, we're in alignment. It's just,
Well, state and federal law aren't in alignment.
I know, that's
So
why
I-
it's,
Right,
but we're not,
exactly,
but if we say gender, I think, and sexual orientation, then you're violating federal law. But if you, I will do whatever you guys want. If you want to take that hard stance on this,
No, we
then
don't want
let's
to
do it.
fun.
Yeah,
That's
I
not the,
agree.
that's not the point here. My point is, I think that we are in a situation where our state government, which is where we receive the majority of the funds coming in, we receive more state funding than federal. Is that, I think that's accurate.
Out of proceed.
Yeah, when you had it.
Yeah. we
I
added
think
out of
eventually we're
proceed.
gonna get all state money, right?
No,
The federal's over $500,000 with food service.
yeah, with
Right,
food service.
that's the
and
big one.
That's the big, it's the food
And it's-
service. If we didn't need the food
Right.
service, I'd say,
I thought they were just.
And that,
those are that, you know.
the point isn't to try to create we're not like take a stance here.
Okay.
The issue is, we are in a position where we're either in violation of
yes, we
state
are,
law or federal law.
we are
And
absolutely.
at some point, we need to figure out what's at risk in either position.
Yeah.
Right? Because if our policies don't articulate that we won't discriminate based on gender and sexual identity, then we are in violation of the state law. And, you know, is the state prepared to step in and say, well, you know,
They are,
well, I mean, this is not the current administration, but yeah, at some point that may be. an issue.
yeah.
how long can we kick this can down?
I think we can kick this one down for a little bit. I don't.
You haven't used it April 24th? Is that when you have to have all this in?
I had to have that thing signed, possibly signed by April 17th.
Which includes having all of our policies.
It's stating that our policies are in alignment, that we are not using in alignment with all the executive orders.
And if we don't,
Well, the
if we
people are
don't,
fighting it right now, so I think that we may have a little bit of a pause here.
is there enough of a fight that we can pause? We are not a big enough district to fight that fight. Are there bigger districts fighting that fight?
There are bigger districts fighting that fight, so I'm kind of doing that.
I would suggest we put this off to the next policy meeting. Or as close as we can
can-
get before you have to have it signed.
Gordon
And
did
then
recommend that
see where we're
I
at.
sign it, because we're a small enough district. However, he also later emailed back saying, I know that there's a court hearing today, and I said, yes, I'm waiting to see how that came out of the court hearing today. So there could be like an
Let's wait,
injunction
because we
for the
may
state
be,
of New Hampshire.
this might be a moot point, and we might win without fighting, if we just wait. We're not a big enough district to fight it. We are okay to wait, I think. What do you think? So,
I don't know, and I guess I'm not,
Just put in compliance with state and the government and write rules after.
I guess I'm not familiar enough with all of the federal mandates, because the way that I understood what they're targeting is providing preferential treatment for certain articulated plastics, right? And that's not what this policy does. This policy doesn't say, all it basically says is you can't discriminate against a person. I mean, we could put, can't discriminate based on height, or you can't discriminate based on hairstyle, right? I mean,
I agree with that, but Title IX went back to the old, which took out gender identity. So the Title IX aligned.
Right.
With the Title IX aligned with our state law, so you could put that in there. Then when Title IX went back and it said they removed gender identity and sexual orientation, now you've got the two laws in conflict with each other.
yeah, one just says that you can't,
You can't include.
the one just says you can't discriminate against people for their gender identity.
But they-
The other one just
so you
doesn't make
can't
that a
give
problem,
preferential
right? So like,
treatment, right.
but isn't specifically saying that, like, unless we allow discrimination against people based on their gender identity, that we're somehow gonna get in trouble. Which is essentially,
So they defined, before they had defined sex to include gender identity and sexual orientation. And now they've come up with a new definition, which was the old definition, that it excluded those. So now we're saying we're including that, right, to be in compliance with our state law. But the federal government's saying you're not allowed to add gender identity and sexual orientation into the definition of sex. So that's where the problem is. But I'm not an attorney, you are.
but I'm not, that's just obviously my wheelhouse, right? So, I don't know enough about the
Yeah.
education law. I just, in general, when the statutes define rights, it's setting a minimum threshold, right?
Yep.
And then, like when the federal government defines the boundaries of the Fourth Amendment, then the states can't go below that, but we can add
Right.
additional protection. So we can say, in New Hampshire, for example, we treat cars basically the same as a home when it comes to search warrants, right?
Yeah.
But in the federal system, they don't. They basically say cars get virtually no protection.
Let me go back and get
So
that.
my thought is, if they're saying, we're not gonna put it we're not gonna make it a federal mandate that you protect against discrimination for people based on gender identity. But are they also saying that we can't?
Yes, they're not saying you can't add, they're literally saying you cannot include gender identity and sex
Exactly,
as part of the definition. So that's the problem. So it's like not just sex and then the state law, like you said, gets to be narrower. They literally said you can't do that. So let me just get the
So
statute.
federally mandating us to allow discrimination against people.
Yes,
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 exactly.
yes.
Exactly.
It is, that's the problem, where all these fights are coming from right
I
now.
went down a
But-
deep, dark rabbit hole.
Yes,
Going through
but
all
why
this
don't
last
we,
time.
why don't I get
Because of
the
that.
clear stuff from Gordon and the New Hampshire School Board Association, so we can look at that statute together.
So we'll wait on that one as
Yes.
well for that reason.
Does that make
Okay.
sense? To do it that way?
Yeah,
I know,
it's
it's.
frustrating, it's frustrating because
really
we're,
frustrating.
It
because
is.
we're dealing with two apparently diametrically opposed positions.
We are,
to say the-
we are, that's why we put in the old Title IX stuff, that general language.
I do recall that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's the reason I put that, we had put that in there.
What do you got next?
Just more dead horse beating because it comes up in another policy
Which
somewhere.
policy?
Comes up in the, there was another policy that came up.
This is the first one I see.
Maybe it was this.
It mentions federal and stuff on page 2. Yeah, same thing right here. It's the same exact.
Right, yeah, so
Yeah.
that's, and
So-
that's, it's. It is the same USDA.
Yeah.
illustration,
So that's AC, and I'd suggest we wait on that one as well, because it's the exact same
Yeah.
language.
So let's just get the Title IX procedure in place, so it's, you know, we have an operating procedure around them.
Anything else?
And then I'll get the clarification on those statutes or executive orders.
And then
Make sure it has
GBGBA,
to say Gulf of Mexico.
yeah. The GBGBA is not on the list, but I'd like to move that one forward to second reading as well.
Yeah.
Is everybody else, for the other one, yeah?
Yeah.
Okay.
That's in the packet.
So, if you're done.
And,
Okay. Did anyone else have anything? Great, then I'll make a motion to move AC, AC-R2, GBAM, and JECBB, and GBGBA to second reading. So we're holding back AC, ACA, and ACF. Okay. That was my motion.
thanks, Tammy, thank you, Joe. Any further discussion on that? All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
Dave,
Abstentions?
thank you for all that. Yes, I agree 1,000% with everything.
Frustrating.
It is.
Yeah, it is.
And violate the law somewhere.
Right, yeah, and
Pick your poison.
the sentiment behind it all is frustrating.
It's, yeah.
Put it in like they want the wording.
Okay,
They call us out, we'll just tell them the chair told us to.
yeah, right.
Here's the fun stuff.
It's new.
It's new.
Next up is business requiring board action. Board organization, so we have some policies in here regarding school board powers and duties. Member ethics, the conflicts of interest,
I don't know, do it.
and everyone here is not new, so. Luckily, everybody's seen those before. Does anyone have any questions or any discussion on this? They're included in the packet, so it was a reminder. You know, don't take money, change your vote.
Wait, is that an option?
That has never been.
Okay.
So the next up is the committee assignments.
I know Jasmine, who's not here, indicated that would like to stay on for existing committees, which is wellness, professional staff negotiations, and policy.
She did say that if anyone had a particularly strong desire to be part of any of those, she would be, you know, she would step aside, but essentially indicated that she had some projects that were ongoing. She wanted to see through, so.
And I'm willing to stay on the same ones I'm on, transportation, staff negotiations, and HSBA rep. Unless anybody really wants them, Joe. Just kidding.
Sure. So. Actually, I went last year.
Are you happy,
Yeah.
are you okay with being the
The
backup, the alternate for an HSBA?
Yeah, I do it, I do anyways.
Either way, we'll figure it out.
You said you would stay on transportation.
Actually, great.
Nice.
Kevin, Joe, Casey, you guys are all
Yeah.
facilities. Right? So, wanted to know, right? Mandy, did you want to remain on the process? All right, then, we have technology, Kevin. Casey, emergency management. So I think it's just this exact,
Status quo.
easy enough.
Just change professional discipline.
Oh, right, yeah.
What?
Support staff this year for the contract negotiations.
Yeah.
No, support staff for professional stuff.
Yeah.
There was one committee that we were on and then we were not on anymore. That was the
Professional development.
professional development,
Yes.
sick bank,
Risk
right?
management.
Sick bank, yeah, all those. Do we
And so
need to,
we just,
do we need to add CIP? That was one of our goals, was to have
Facilities
I just added in.
representative.
Facilities gonna, or
Say that again?
this facilities gonna,
I mean, that's
Or-
fine. I just didn't know. I know in the goals we had, I was reading earlier that it specifically said have members. Oh, here we go. CIP commit, each spring, the CIP committee. Oh, the CIP committee will create school district capital improvement plans, staff are to discuss future needs. So it's references a CIP committee. Is that just gonna be the facilities committee?
I mean, it makes sense. Most of those issues are the overall majority of the
Sure.
stuff is facility related issues, right?
So we should just add that to
Maybe there's some
CIP slash
transportation
facilities.
stuff.
So just add it CIP slash facilities or facilities slash CIP or something.
Yeah.
But I think it should be delineated
Have it included as part of it.
part of the facilities, yeah.
And I guess we can. If you guys don't have an issue with it, we can add it on to the facilities, kind of managing the CIP. And then if it becomes too much, we can establish a separate thing, I guess.
It makes sense because it is.
Yeah.
Funding the facility, so, for the most part. And operations, so.
Next up is the board meeting schedule that was included in the packets. Does anyone see any major issues or anything with that? Hearing none, we'll move on. And then the board goal setting meeting. Setting a date for that. So I think. In the past, we have done a separate meeting instead of trying to do it on a. On a normal meeting night, because it does tend to take a bit. I don't know if anyone has any opinions about trying to do that before the end of this school year or in the fall.
Nice that we should do it, and give that away. So,
You look at the schedule here, you have the second meeting in May, and you could just not have a school board meeting and do your goal setting.
May
Yeah.
21st.
That's what I was.
May 20.
28th.
Make that one a goal setting meeting. Works for me, anyone else?
That's good. And I guess if something comes up that we need to address, we can just notice it as a normal meeting as well. Right. We have nominations, recommendations, and resignations. I think that's gonna require non-public. So I guess we'll go into non-public and we'll have to come out and make a vote.
Yeah, you wanna go into non-public now, and then come out, and then
Yeah, we have a couple of different things to go
Yeah.
into non-public on,
and
so,
then we can come back,
yeah,
finish the meeting.
I think that makes sense. Because we do need to take a vote on the nominations list, right, so.
Right.
All right, then I will pull the board going in non-public to address, under 9183, hiring a person or any matters likely to adverse the effective reputation of the person or the school board. Joe? Yes. Andy?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
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 We are going in non-public. So